I've never really been a Spider-Man person. Not that I hate the character, it's just that I know a lot of people who are obsessed with him, and that's just never been me. I think for a lot of people, Spider-Man was someone they got into as a child, and that makes a lot of sense. He's designed to be the most relatable, aspirational superhero out there. A real kid in a real city. But see, I didn't get into watching pretty much any superhero stuff until I was a teenager. So by that time, I wasn't interested in being a superhero myself. I found myself more interested in a character like Batman, simply because I found him more interesting psychologically. So while I always could enjoy a good piece of Spider-Man media, I never truly got the love other people gave the character. But even I knew Into the Spider-Verse was a big deal. It was getting rave reviews from children to the most pretentious indie critics on the scene. And I didn't watch it at the time. Yeah, I was in a weird state at this time, I'm sorry. But I did watch it eventually, and while I didn't think it was as perfect as some did, I definitely thought it was a treat, and probably the best Spider-Man film made to that point. But I still didn't quite get into Spider-Man the same way others did with that film. I didn't really understand what it was like to see yourself in the suit until this sequel. Now, I get it. I get it so much. Now, there's standard praise the first film got that of course carries over here. The animation is fucking gorgeous. The way each character has their own specific art style and frame rate, the way the colors absolutely pop but manage to blend like an oil painting, the level of palpable momentum and character in each frame. But if you're familiar with the first, you probably expected all of that. But what I was extra impressed with regards to this specific film was the characters. The characters in the first film were great, but I was impressed with just how much depth they were able to add on with this film. Miles shows a lot of growth from the first film, but there's still some confusion and inexperience, not being sure how to handle all the responsibility but trying his best. You can really feel the exaggerated swagger
of a black teen.
You feel his longing to do what's right for everyone while also living up to expectations. But by God, Gwen... oh my god, I loved her character in the last one, but this one felt like I could truly relate to her at times. Hell, with her opening, I nearly cried for her. I nearly cried at a superhero movie, okay? I admit it. I'm not proud of it, but it's true. That's just how much I related to Gwen Stacy in this film, particularly in the first hour and at the end. Even if how she handled herself in the middle still broke my heart a bit. There's also the fascinating themes that play around with Spider-Man tropes while also having double meaning in terms of how both Miles and Gwen need to learn to make their own choices and find their place in life, while also being afraid of losing everything they love, while also dealing with the growing tax of responsibility on their lives and what it means for them to do right regardless. It's hard to not find this narrative incredibly fascinating. And the addition of 3 new main characters in Spider-Punk, Spider-Man India, and Spider-Man 2099 helped that narrative too. Spider-Man 2099 is definitely the most developed of the 3, intriguing me with the mystery surrounding his backstory. While Spider-Man India is a blast of energy and fun times that felt like the free spirit of Spider-Man on steroids. But Spider-Punk definitely takes the cake of the supporting cast surrounding Miles and Gwen for me. He's not even in that many scenes, but when he steps on the scene, his visual style and dialogue alone intoxicated me and made me wish for more of him. Maybe partially because it's hard for me not to relate to a literal embodiment of punk music just a little bit. Hopefully we at least get more of him in the next film. And dear God, the music is fantastic. Like, listen to this. I know when people think of Spider-Verse music, they think of Sunflower or the new Metro Boomin album that accompanies this. But Daniel Pemberton's orchestral score is incredible here. The mix of electronic fusion elements to represent Spider-Man 2099, record scratches and flashes of hip-hop stylization for Miles Morales, drum solos for Gwen Stacy, and guitar solos for Spider-Punk, all accented by some perfect string raises. My god, give this man an Oscar nom finally. He deserves it. Now, I've been pretty ecstatic so far, and that's deserved. This is so far my favorite film of the year. But it's not perfect, which means it's time for our news segment, Emily critiques the thing everyone loves right now. Because there's a certain phrase I used earlier when talking about Spider-Punk. Next film. Because guess what? This is a two-parter. No! And while they try their best to end at an appropriate point where there's still an arc that's sort of completed, it's hard to not feel like the cliffhanger leaves me as an audience member with little satisfaction. Like, as much as I did enjoy it, it does remind me of Dune back in 2021. Like, I was in love with that film too, head over heels, and then the movie's ending and Timothée Chalamet basically just turns to the camera and goes, "And knowing is half the battle." G.I. Joe! So it's hard for me to really judge a film that doesn't feel like it's ended yet. And even ignoring that, there are still just some jokes that just fell flat to me. And I'll add that how the film handles the issue of police is admittedly kind of weird. Like, it acknowledges that there are bad police officers, but because Gwen and Miles' dads are both cops, they have large sections dedicated to what it means to be a good cop and fighting the good fight. In a movie about a vigilante who fights crime better than the cops, though. Like, you see how that's kind of a weird theme that clashes with the feelings of freedom and responsibility that come with Spider-Man when you start focusing on the people who you're also picking up after. Could be worse, though. Could be the Spider-Man game.
Spider Cop, 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 Spider Cop.
Oh, and Sony, stop that. Treat your animators right. But overall, when it comes to this film, I have to agree with the consensus. If superhero is now a genre, then this is arguably one of, if not the best superhero movie ever made. Granted, coming from me, the world's #1 hater, that's a low bar. But I do mean it in a strong sense. Into the Spider-Verse was great, one of the best animated films of the decade. But Across the Spider-Verse is even better in my opinion. It may be incomplete, but goddammit, it made me care so deeply. And it's rare a film is able to accomplish that, let alone one with this much money and clout and press surrounding it. So while this film left us on a cliffhanger, and that may be disappointing to me and so many, I'll still be right back there opening night for part 2 to finish it off, as I remember that with great power comes great responsibility. Joaquin Dos Santos, Justin K. Thompson, and Kemp Powers' Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's a 9 out of 10.